Hey everybody, this is CB, and this week on episode 302 of The Gaming Outsider, we talk about the possibility of game prices increasing for the next gen, and a Fallout TV series on Amazon. As far as new games go, we talk about CrossCode, SINoALICE, Superliminal, Hunter Simulator 2, Hardspace Shipbreaker, Nordic Warriors, Desperados III, and Hand of Glory. And for our community questions and topics, we talk about boss battles. It's an interesting subject. This is The Gaming Outsider.
Greetings, programs, and welcome to episode 302 of The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community. It's Monday, July 6th. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and joining me are my friends, Zach Parkerson.
Well, how do you do, man?
I'm doing all right. And Chris Berensmeyer.
What up, yo?
Not much. We just got done with 4th of July. Did you guys do anything exciting over the 4th?
I didn't blow off my fingers.
That's good.
It's a great start,
very
man.
good.
Good for you.
I was very happy that my neighborhood stopped shooting off fireworks after the 4th of July because they've been shooting them off every weekend since Memorial Day. And I feel like in years past, even after the 4th is done, people are still shooting them off in the neighborhood, but not this year. They've been like, we've been doing it for a month, we're good.
You really are turning into an old man.
I really am. It sucks.
I mean, you could stop it. Just so you know, you don't have to turn into an old man.
Oh, I thought you were saying I could stop the fireworks. I'm like, I'm not going to call the cops. And
no, you could just. That. No, that would be a dick move.
Yeah. I have called the cops in the past though, because I was tired of the four-wheelers running up and down my street with kids on them.
That's a great use of police resources.
It was not safe, man. It's not safe. Anyway. Did you guys do anything fun for the 4th of July? I know everybody can't really go out and see fireworks, or fireworks displays have been canceled.
I watched Alexander Hamilton.
I watched the first half.
Hamilton, I guess. What a performance.
Isn't that great?
It is phenomenal. I was listening to the soundtrack all day today.
See, I have been listening to the soundtrack like a lot, just like whenever I'm doing stuff, and then they actually go watch the performance live and hear the same voices doing the stuff was pretty great. And I know it's awful of me to probably say this, but King George cracks me up. I just think I found him hilarious, at least in the first half for the intermission.
Why should you not be allowed to say that? What?
Because he's like the one white guy in the entire thing. I'm sitting here saying, man, I love the performance of the white guy. That's not what I'm going for. I just,
yeah.
His performance cracks me up a little bit when he does the whole feeling blue, and he taps his foot, and they change the light to blue. Fun fact, that guy is also the voice of Kristoff on Frozen. I learned.
Oh, yeah? He looked familiar. I couldn't place him.
I don't know if he looked like Kristoff in the animated movie, but...
Well, I mean, they're all famous now.
That's true. Anyway, this is a video game podcast. I want to give a quick heads up, everybody. The podcast award nominations are up. We have registered once again for podcast awards, and we need your help to get nominated. There is a link. Hopefully, I'll have it in the show notes here for you. But there's a link that I've created on our website with some instructions. It takes you like 30 seconds to vote for us. We'd really appreciate it. You can go to podcastawards.com. And I got a list of sister podcasts, including Zach's own Smirk podcast, is up for, is it the arts category? Is that the arts category?
That's us.
And Packers Fan Podcast, Hollywood Outsider, they're all on there, and we would really appreciate it. We just need to get nominated so we could make the top 10, and then after we make the top 10, if we do, then then it's up to the judges to decide if we deserve anything. So if you get a chance, please, it seriously takes about 30 seconds. You won't get spammed with email or anything. And vote for us for the games and hobbies category. We would very, very much appreciate it. Also, Chris, we unveiled something pretty big this past weekend. You want to tell everybody about it?
Yeah, we have our Go store. It's live. So we have a bunch of things on there, masks, 3D printed items. Nate and I have been working on a bunch of miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, till the end of the month, 20% off everything.
All the 3D printed items.
All the 3D printed items, not the masks.
Yes.
So
I have been, if you guys have been following me on Facebook or Twitter at all, I have acquired some new skills this summer while I'm on summer break. So one of them being my sister-in-law taught me how to sew. So I have been sewing masks and making masks and heat treating vinyl to masks, and it's just been kind of crazy. So check out the site. It is thegamingoutsider.com/thego-shop if you're interested in checking that out. Again, it's not money that we keep for ourselves. It is every penny that we earn goes into making the Gaming Outsider a better place. So check it out if you get a chance. Let's go ahead and jump into the week's news. All right, some new trailers this week. We got a new trailer for, not a trailer, but a screenshot for Back for Blood from the makers of Left 4 Dead. Also a trailer, well, not really a trailer, more of a cinematic trailer for Shadow Warrior 3. Also, the price of games could possibly be bumping up to the $69.99 price range for next generation. There are 4 new games coming to Game Pass, including Fallout 76, also Soul Calibur 6, CrossCode, and Out of the Park Baseball 21. And then lastly, a new TV series based on the Fallout series is in the works over at Amazon. Which of these stories do you guys want to talk about?
Well, there's no need to beat around the bush. Let's talk about money.
Okay.
So NBA 2K21,
Correct.
jump it up to $70 on PS5 and Xbox Series X. Also, I'm insulted that they're charging $100 to get both versions.
Yeah, that's a little weird to me.
It's super weird coming right off the back of Avengers saying you'll get a free upgrade.
Well, multiple games have been saying that you do that way. If you get it on the Xbox Series X, you get it on the Xbox. I'm sorry, if you get it on the Xbox One, you get it on the Xbox Series X for free. Or if you get it on the PS4, you get it for the PS5 for free.
Yeah, it's like
sports games.
Yeah, sports games just want to slap people in the face.
But I mean, to CB's point, people will pay it. That's why they're doing it, because they know people will pay it. Sports games are some of the best-selling games out there, consistently.
Yeah, I understand. There's a big difference between you can do something and should you do something.
Yeah, it's a free market, right? You can do whatever you want. That's business.
Every other publisher is not screwing you over. Don't let them screw you over.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? But yeah, I feel like everybody has known that next gen games would be $70, right? Like that felt like a foregone conclusion.
I had a feeling. I don't know that I had any real insight. I just kind of assumed that one of these years games are going to bump up $10, and
right. I was surprised it didn't happen for PS4 and Xbox One.
So was I.
But
once again, well, my biggest thing is if you want to buy the digital version, keep it at the same price, man.
Yeah, there's no
way
that's a really good point.
But no way, because they know you'll pay $70 regardless. You'll pay the asking price. So why wouldn't they extract the profit? The same reason they're doing this $100 version.
Well, how much does it cost to press a disc and get a plastic case and the insert? How much does all that cost? Does that cost more than $10?
No.
And shipping.
Time you pay all the people to do everything and put together the artwork and the disc artwork.
Right, but
I'd imagine
they're doing thumbnail artwork, right, for the store anyway.
Yeah,
but that's going to exist anyway.
The thumbnail art is usually based off of the cover art.
Right. They're not doing something new. But to CB's point, I think that this would be a good opportunity to really push the digital thing, which is what they want, right? They don't want to have to ship out these physical copies. They don't want people sharing their games.
This is yet another case of if you're GameStop, Walmart, Best Buy, Amazon, you're not going to stock the $70 disc for the publisher who's undercutting you on the digital market.
Okay.
Comic books briefly tried this in like the mid 2010s.
Yeah, it was about then.
And I want to say it was DC, because of course it was, where they're trying to undercut the stores by $1, and stores are just like, all right, we will not order your books then. Like, it's just, you're not. I understand, because we're on a podcast, we're in the industry, and everybody just wants to go digital, but the industry is just not there yet, and you're not going to cut out 40 to 50% of your market just because you want to get people digital.
So what's it going to take to cross that bridge, do you think? I mean, I know you're not for it, and me asking this question isn't trying to say that I think it needs to be this way. I just think it's inevitable. What's it going to take to cross that bridge? Well,
what do you think of the all digital future is inevitable?
At some point. I mean, well, maybe not 100%, but it's going to start swinging.
See, that's everybody always talks about the all digital future, but you need only look at other industries to prove that this is not the case.
What, like the PC market?
No, I'm talking about like books.
Yeah, books. Magazines,
books, movies,
newspapers.
I don't know who the hell is buying magazines, but yeah, magazines.
That's what I'm saying. It's just a matter of time.
Well, a magazine is an information pamphlet that you browse through and then put down, and you don't need that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, I don't really need my physical copies of Mass Effect anymore.
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to have like a philosophical debate. I'm just saying, book sales every year are still 50-50 physical to digital.
Right, but the difference is the experience that you're having while reading a book is vastly different when you're actually physically turning pages as opposed to scrolling up. Whether you play a digital game or a physical copy of a game, it's still going to play the same on your console and on your TV, right?
I feel like, yeah. I mean, are we just going to have this debate every week?
Probably.
I'm not. I don't even feel like I'm debating with you. I'm not.
No, to me, it is a profoundly different experience.
How so?
Having the game on the shelf, opening it, putting the disc in, it just feels more like you have a game than when it's done digitally on my console, where it feels like another box on the screen. I feel like you have a different relationship to it. The same way reading a physical comic, I think, more closely connects you to it.
Yeah,
I can't argue it. I don't feel the same way, but
I mean, look at me, man. I love having my physical games on the shelf. They're there. I know they're there. My biggest problem with going all digital is when you move a generation or two down the line, and you're like, I really love this game, but because I bought it all digital, I can't play it anymore. That's one of the reasons I still stick by physical games, is because later on, if I want to go back and play said game, I can. Which is why
you can't find a physical copy of it for $5 somewhere in 30 years.
Not always. Look at all the indie games. Like, this is why I support companies like Limited Run Games and all of them, because they are putting out those indie games that never got a physical release with all the download content that I know in a few years I'm not going to be able to get.
You're right. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stir up a debate about digital versus physical again. But how do you guys feel about a possible bump to $70 next generation? Is that going to bother you?
It is
Not
a
really.
self-fulfilling prophecy of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
They say we need to increase the prices because development costs are rising, but development costs are only rising because publishers think that you care about the sweat beads that form on Marcus Phoenix's head, and we don't. I don't think there's a single person out there who be like, oh man, there's like 10% less gore on this chainsaw attack. I refuse to buy Gears of War 6. The things that publishers think we care about, I don't think actually matter. And this could be supported by the fact that Minecraft, Fortnite, and Grand Theft Auto 5 are the biggest games in the world, and they all look like trash.
I was actually going to say the exact same thing. I mean,
at the same time, though, I also still want developers to constantly push forward in some way. You know, I'm not saying that I care about the beads of sweat like you're talking, or the percentage of gore that's not on the chainsaw anymore, but you know, if they're not trying new things or trying to push the envelope and push for realism, I mean, I'm not as big of a graphics guy as you guys think I am. I know you really don't care, Zach. Some of my favorite games have been pixelated games. Moonlighter wasn't a graphically intensive game, but I still like seeing the new stuff that really pushes. I mean, look at the facial animations in Last of Us Part 2. We all were kind of blown away by that, right?
Yeah, and that's all things were like, oh, that's cool. But do you think if we didn't have, if the facial animations were still only as good as Uncharted 4, do you think we would have liked the game any less?
Would we have liked the game any less?
Yeah, do you think Last of Us Part 2 would have made any less of an impact on the industry if the facial animations were still Uncharted 4 quality instead of Last of Us Part 2 quality?
I mean, that's a good point, because when people talk about Last of Us Part 2, at least right now, it always feels like an afterthought. Oh, by the way, this game looks gorgeous.
Yes.
And it's never the first thing.
Like God of War, my God of War review for the site, it took me several paragraphs to be like, oh yeah, I forgot the game is pretty. Like it is drop dead gorgeous. One of the best games ever that I've seen running.
Well, I mean, and if it did look like Uncharted 4, would we care? We wouldn't have known.
Exactly.
We wouldn't have known, but at the same time, I'm still appreciative that Last of Us Part 2 looks as much better than Uncharted 4 as it does. I appreciate the things going forward. Now, do I want to pay an extra $10 for a game like 2K21? As a guy that doesn't play a lot of sports games, me personally, no. Especially when 2K21 is going to be, well, I mean, this goes for any game. It's going to be $20 cheaper in a month.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Let's look at it this way. How do you think all the people that are going to be buying Grand Theft Auto 5 again for now $10 more?
Oh, I didn't even. Man,
this is the same publisher as NBA 2K. That's a good point.
If Grand Theft Auto 5 on next generation is $70, there's no way that game is going to be that much.
Well,
I don't know. You put the Rockstar logo on the box. I think you can get away with it.
You're probably right.
There's going to be a re-release of like Minecraft, but it'll be now $70.
It's 20. No, it's 20 now for Minecraft.
That's a $20 game.
Okay, or Skyrim again.
Yeah, that I could see.
Are we going to go through this like re-releases of games again, like we did?
Well, we had it all this generation of all the reboots and remasters.
Well, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, CB, but if NBA is the precedent, then why wouldn't they be like, yeah, you can play, your PS4 version of Skyrim on PS5, or if you give us $20, we'll upgrade it for you.
If I can carry over my save, I might be sold.
See? They nickel and dime you.
I mean,
a macro transaction.
I paid $10 for the game. Paying another $20 for superior graphics and to carry over my save from the previous console. Why not? It's $20.
You know what? With the rising cost of game prices, it just makes things like Game Pass and the PlayStation 1 seem that much more enticing.
Good point. Although
Especially
you won't get things like NBA 2K1 on Game Pass.
Yeah, but with the fact that Microsoft likes to release all their first-party stuff through Game Pass, that feels so good.
Yeah, I think Game Pass is a big player here. PlayStation Now, like you said, is really going to kind of change the tide on this, because why would you pay? Yeah. Because you bump up the price. Like, even me, like, I buy less $60 games every year because sales happen so often, or games hit Game Pass so quickly.
And there's so many games you can't keep up. You might as well wait for that one to drop in price.
Because they're all freaking 50 hours long, man. Like, I just don't have the time. Like, okay, I'll hold off on Far Cry 5, and then by the time I want to play it, oh man, it's only $15, or, oh, that's on Game Pass, so I don't even need to buy it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the jump up to 70 is just going to make people even more selective of those experiences.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of supply and demand too, because there's so many games out there, or there's going to be so many more games out there. People have to be more selective, so it kind of creates a need for the price increase. Is that are we making the same point?
No, I think. Well, no, I think the increase in price point is because of the development budgets primarily.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think, like, I am already frustrated that in 4 years, when single player games, like there will be a big single player game that doesn't sell well, and they'll be like, oh, it's because of all these free to play games, and they will not look at like, oh, maybe we don't need to spend $200 million to make a game at $70 a pop. I'm already annoyed.
So would you like to see a developer like Naughty Dog or Rockstar or any of these, massive developers just make like a budget title game? Like where the gameplay is as good as these other games that they're known for, their flagship titles, but just make a really fun, short experience that is maybe $40?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would take a dozen short 40-hour games over one $70 large game. Yes, but that's our style, especially with the podcast. You want to get in and play a game and get out. Mm-hmm. I love short games, man. I miss them.
I actually think that'd be a really good challenge to throw it, like some big industry leader to throw at all these companies. Be like, hey, you know what? This year, I want every single one of you big guys to make an indie-ish style game. Like, see what Ubisoft or Naughty Dog or EA would come, like, just bring to the table.
Plus, wouldn't that be a good opportunity to uncover some potentially hidden talent? Like, get some interns in there doing some stuff and see what they can do.
Or, like, I mean, that is an awesome idea. So you'd be like, as a publisher, be like, hey, you need to scope a game for $20, Naughty Dog. What can you make happen? Mm-hmm. Because then you are going to focus on mechanics or an interesting idea or a central conceit, as opposed to, technical fidelity and making every environment bespoke or whatever. That'd be really cool. And before we jump off this topic, I just want to say, for the record, so nobody calls me a hypocrite in a few years, there are absolutely games I'm going to pay $70 for. Mm-hmm. Like they're of course. Yeah, I will pay $70 for a Spider-Man, a Star Wars, a Nier, whatever. Like there will always be the games I'm willing to pay the extra money for. It's just, as a whole, I'm going to take less chances.
Do you think that this potential $70 price tag would just be for like AAA titles, and the games that were previously like $40 would now jump to $60?
I think it's really going to depend on what sales look like, because if you see a lot of games take off at the $70 price point, other games are going to rise in price to match, because they're like, oh, well, people are willing to pay this, we'll rise up as well.
I just think that we'll see lots of varied prices as opposed to the $59.99 price tag that most games fall into, even if it's not a AAA game, unless it's like a budget title like a Lost Legacy or I can't even think of any other ones off the top of my head right now, or an indie title that falls between the $15 and $20 range. But box copy games right now are just $59.99. I could see in next gen that price fluctuating based on popularity.
I mean, I've always in the back of my mind wanted to see that, like exploring the pricing scale, essentially. Like The Witcher 3 was probably a polished enough game with enough length that they probably could have charged $80 for that at the time. And you could convince people to buy it. Or The Order 1886. Imagine how much more successful that would have been if the publisher would have just been like, oh, it's a $40 game. It's every bit as technically impressive as a $60 game. It's just $40. And then, but the problem is that it's not normalized, so people immediately go like, oh, what is this cheapo game?
It's getting over that hurdle of breaking the psychology and making it the norm.
Yes.
All right, well, let's go ahead. I did not mean for us to talk about that topic that long, but that was a good discussion. CB, which story that I mentioned do you want to talk about?
Man, I'm going to talk about Fallout.
I figured as much.
I'm just really excited because the fact that the people from Westworld are tied to this.
Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy.
Yeah. I'm beyond ecstatic, but I remember the last time a game studio made their off-branch film studio, and then we got Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
Well, that was 20 years ago, man.
Right.
Yeah, but now you're taking another beloved franchise and trying to do something with it.
Yeah, but also Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy are avid Fallout fans and have put hundreds of hours into the games. From what I've read.
even beyond, the marketing spin of, oh yeah, we play thousands of hours, that kind of nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
There's even interviews when they were talking Westworld where they're like, oh yeah, we're influenced by blah blah blah, movie, book. Oh, BioShock, of course, and then like listing other movies, like just tucked in there was this video game reference point. So yeah, I think they're pretty legit on caring about games as an art medium.
Well, I understand they are, but studios and investors tend to be a wall and ruin things.
I see that, but Westworld turned out to be pretty great, in my opinion. Season 3 was awesome. I don't know if you watched it, Zach. I can't remember.
No, I haven't got there yet. So
Season 1 ended too perfectly. I don't know if I need more Westworld.
You do. Season 2 is a slog, a little bit, but Season 3 is really, really worth it. Anyway, and I know this isn't going to be an HBO show. It's going to be Amazon. Unfortunately, I don't have access to Amazon Prime viewing stuff, so it'll be a little tricky for me. But if that happens, I'm going to make it happen somehow, because I've been begging for something in the Fallout universe on the silver screen or the small screen for years.
There was a small fan-made series on YouTube that was actually pretty good.
I remember that one. Yeah, they got the tone pretty right.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So I'm really excited, but I'm super hesitant about this because, like, for me, Fallout is like a beloved thing for me, and I want to see someone do it justice and do it right. But it's going to be interesting because now you're taking this one character that has a bunch of short stories. I'm just curious on how they're going to do the format for it. Because when you think about,
I would presume you follow the Mandalorian model, right? Of that show is already a freaking video game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just goes on a different quest every episode. You can just follow that structure and just tell these one-off stories that kind of crescendos into a finale. I think Fallout lends itself very well to a television series in that regard.
There's so much potential rich storylines going on at the same time.
I agree. I'm just hoping they do that. And if they went out and said, like, right now, we're going to do Fallout similar to how Disney did The Mandalorian, I'd be just take my money and just start throwing dollars at them.
Mm-hmm. But there's such an opportunity to make this show feel like the game too, like the radio stations have that style of music going. That has to be in there, right?
That's essential.
I mean, it has to be. What's the DJ's name? Three Dog.
Three Dog.
That's got to be in there.
Mr. New Vegas.
Oh man, there's so many.
What's awesome about Fallout is it has potential to be one of the weirdest shows on TV. Yeah, I'll never forget that Fallout 3 quest where the dude mutated into a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine seeing that on television with the production budget of a premium cable network?
Oh,
I love it.
That actually just hit me. They could actually make this really interesting because here's my question. Like, one of the biggest things about Fallout is the fact that you have the choice system. Good, bad, neutral. How are you going to play it?
So they're going to do it like they did that, what was that Netflix show? The Black Mirror episode?
Oh, yeah.
Bandersnatch, is that what it was called?
Bandersnatch.
We could choose your own event? No, I don't want that. I really don't want that.
I don't want it either, but it does make it interesting because are you going to make your main character good, bad, or neutral?
I think they'll do what every TV show seems to do where it's, I had a bad past, but now I'm good.
I really want to see... not only that, like I want to know where it's going to be set. If there's going to be a vault that does everything start in a vault?
I hope so, because I thought the beginning of Fallout 3 was awesome.
Well, that's a great entry point for the audience too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then your lone wanderer asks all the same questions you would be asking.
Especially like if they market the game as it being like in the wasteland, and then the entire first episode or two all takes place in a vault, and people are going to be like, what? And then the end of the episode is cracking open the vault and then fade to black.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good pilot.
That'd be a great pilot. Yeah.
I'm just, I want to know where their location's going to be. That's all I really care about right now.
Well, that's the thing. Do you want like, Boston or Vegas or Washington D.C. Do we want one of the familiar ones, or do we want it like a brand new location?
I want a new location that hasn't been touched before.
And let's go to a place that's not hit by like every other movie. Where?
I want DC.
I kind of want DC too.
DC would be fun, but I want somewhere else. Like I still want Baton Rouge or Miami. Chicago was destroyed. New York City was destroyed. So was Pittsburgh.
Look at this guy. He's rolling out the lore.
I told you, like, Fallout is my thing. So
see, the thing with DC and with Boston is there's a lot of colonial history there, and I feel like that's kind of been a theme. Although we had Vegas, which didn't. But again, I haven't played Fallout 1 or 2, just 3 and 4.
You can do a new city every season.
They just Mothership Zeta it.
Oh man,
that would be pretty ballsy for television. I think that would be awesome.
Amazon.
Maybe your Christmas special in between seasons.
Oh my god, that'd be terrible.
Hey, by the way, did I see a rumor correctly that the guy from Breaking Bad is supposed to be in this series as well? Is it Esposito? Giancarlo Esposito? Is that how you pronounce his name? The guy that played Gus Fring?
There's rumors that he's tied to it.
That would be really cool.
I want him as a ghoul, though.
That would be cool, because I love that dude, but he definitely plays the same guy and everything.
Yeah, he does kind of. Anyway, we're all obviously excited about a Fallout series, and stay tuned for more, I guess. I just wanted to mention quickly, because I caught this news right before we started recording, Back 4 Blood, the guys that made
Left 4
Dead. Where has Left 4 Dead been for this entire time? Like,
it has the same problem as everything else that comes out.
Yep.
Oh, we hit a sequel? Nope, we don't know how to count to 3.
Yeah,
we will do everything but make a third game here at Valve.
But apparently it's the same type of cooperative experience with your buddies, but there's some added things to make it unique. And from the picture, I don't know if you saw the picture in the article I had posted. Actually, I didn't post it. Someone from our community did. It looks like there's a building surrounded by a whole bunch of traps, which makes me a little nervous because I'm not a big fan of tower defense type stuff, or like even in Gears when you do the horde mode and you're kind of expected to set all these like traps to slow the horde, as it were. I don't like that. I just want to go shoot stuff.
Man, I feel like I remember you loving that in Gears 2.
What, I thought that didn't drop till Gears 3.
No, I think Gears 2 definitely had the traps.
Actually, I think you might be right.
No, because you could drop down the wires and.
Yeah, I think that was Gears 3.
I think that was Gears 3. I could be wrong, but I'm sure someone will let us know. Who of us is wrong? Anyway, we are going along on the news, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward here. Just want to remind everybody about our Patreon at patreon.com/thegocast. CB, what new episodes are available for everybody?
Most recently, we had the Break the Seal with the Uncharted series. The spoiler cast for The Last of Us Part 2. I know we delved pretty deep into that. Soon we have our adult games episode with Christina, Scott, and myself coming.
I gotta be honest, I'm a little nervous about recording that episode.
Yeah, I am too, because it got a little risque.
Risque is an understatement. There's going to be some things that are uncomfortable to talk about, especially in today's climate. So, just listeners beware. Things may get a little interesting on that episode. That's why we are doing that on Patreon. But again, if you'd like to help support us, help us to cover costs for the show and everything, and just kind of throw a couple bucks our way. The site again is patreon.com/gocast. And it will give you access to all of our bonus episodes at the $5 level. That's $5 per month. And there's some other rewards in there as well. So be sure to check that out. Let's go ahead and talk about the games we've actually been playing. All right, Zach, what's new on the horizon?
The Catherine re-release from last year, full body edition, finally comes to the Nintendo Switch. That's pretty exciting.
I'm so shocked that game is on Switch.
I'm not.
Nintendo doesn't care anymore, man.
They don't.
It's Sony who cares about the butts and the boobs.
Can we get that on Xbox, please?
Only out of
Yes,
Japan, though.
Please.
Was Catherine Full Body not on Xbox One?
No, the original Catherine was on 360.
Yeah. That's why it's weird.
Yeah.
Superliminal comes to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. I think you're going to hear about that here shortly. Same deal with CrossCode on PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. You're going to hear about that soon. Elden Path of the Forgotten is like a horror hack and slash game coming to Switch and PC. Surprising announcement: Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon 2 coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. And I totally forgot this game was even announced, but Deadly Premonition 2: A Blessing in Disguise is coming to Switch. People love Deadly Premonition. And then you
I'm
can
not one of them.
you can race European cars in F1 2020 for PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Stadia, or American cars in NASCAR Heat 5 on PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
By the way, Joel Selinsky is covering NASCAR Heat 5 for us. So
NASCAR.
You'll hear about that next week. He is very, very excited about that game. I remember the announcement of Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon 2. I am shocked we're getting it already. That's this week. I feel like I just heard about that.
They did, man. It's smart. I like these short release or these short announcement windows.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Catherine Full Body, I would like to play. Because I love the original, and I'd love to see what they did differently. And it's been so long that I would have to relearn how to play the game, and it'd be interesting to see my decisions now rather than 10 years ago or however long it was.
Just run from the creepy baby.
Oh my god, that's
definitely
so much.
I gotta say the most interesting thing on this list is Deadly Premonition 2, even though I also did not care for the first game, even though every few months I'm like, God, I gotta play Deadly Premonition. That seems right up my alley.
Is that the one where the guy is committed, like, accused of murder or his own murder or something? Or am I mixing up my games?
No, you're thinking of Murdered Soul Suspect, right?
No, not that. No. Fahrenheit. Is that the one I'm thinking
Indigo.
of?
Yeah, Indigo Prophecy.
Indigo Prophecy. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what
Fahrenheit in Europe.
What is Deadly Premonition?
It's a very Twin Peaky 360 game, but it like runs like absolute trash. But it was pretty beloved when it came out. I know it's there are several notable game critics who cite it as their favorite game ever, like Jim Sterling and Alana Pierce. So people love Deadly Premonition. What cracks me up though is when that game came out, like the review scores were like, a bunch of people gave it 3s and 4s, and then some people gave it 10s. So it is a super divisive game. I think it's one of the worst controlling games I've ever played. But the fact that it got a sequel is pretty miraculous considering how poorly it sold. But I mean, the game always seemed cool. Very Twin Peaks vibe, though. You go on long drives because it's open world, and they'll just talk about 80s movies like the whole time.
Oh, that's cool.
Your character and the voice in his head. And it's like the day you have to like go to certain buildings at certain times because people live on a schedule. Your character has to shave every few days. You have to take baths, or people will like refuse to talk to you because you smell like trash.
No, wait a minute. People do that in Red Dead Redemption 2, and that was new and innovative.
Yeah, funny how that works. Last of Us 2's got about a handful of innovations that already exist as well. But hey, Deadly Premonition 2, it's just a game that should not exist.
But you're totally gonna play it, aren't you?
I wanna play through the first game. I know they did a port to Switch. It's supposed to be pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, it's there's a 2-pack.
Oh yeah,
I picked it up.
Nice.
So I have yet to play it though. So
yeah, I'm not.
So Scott,
yes, sir.
You've been playing this game that has been a little bit of a muddled start for you. Tell me about this game.
A CrossCode you're talking about?
Yeah, that one.
Well, it's muddled start is just because my code didn't work for a while, but I finally got a hold of it, and I have not played a ton of it because I haven't had it very long. But after an hour or two in this game, I am 100% sold, and I promise I'm going to be very quick because I haven't spent that much time. But this is an action RPG game with the dungeon crawling aspects, with some hack and slash, some spells, some ranged attack going on. But then it's also got some puzzle structures where that require you to bounce projectiles that you're firing off of walls and figuring out how to get the right angle and jump across correct gaps. It's got this puzzly aspect with dungeons that are hours long. It's really good. The story is interesting because it's like an MMO, but it's a reverse MMO because the game takes place in a real world and avatars actually come into the real world. And Zach, you'll love it because the main character is mute. I know that drives you crazy in video games where a character doesn't have the ability to speak. And in this one, the game starts out that way. Your character cannot speak, but there is an actual story-related reason why she can't. And then as the story goes, you start learning words and are able to start communicating. And it actually takes place with the gameplay. It's really, really kind of clever. This is another one that feels like this year's Iconoclasts. Nate, if you are listening, you need to check out this game because the gameplay and the bosses feel very Zombies Ate My Neighbors. And I am seriously really enjoying this game, and I cannot wait to play more. So I'll talk about it more next week, but because I've only put a couple hours into it, I love it. It looks and feels like what I remember a 16-bit Super Nintendo game looking like or feeling like.
Yeah. All right, I'm sold.
I mean, it has to look better. I mean, the animations and the silhouette when the character talks and they have their little like avatar there, it obviously has to look better, but it looks like what I remember Super Nintendo games looking like. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
I am seriously in love with this game, and just the combat feels good. I feel like games keep trying to make me want to use the controller in a way that doesn't feel comfortable at first. Like, remember when you played Assassin's Creed and they started making the attack button the RB?
Yes.
And that felt awkward, but it soon became natural. This game does that. You're shooting projectiles is on the RB button, but once you start learning all the other moves and everything, it makes more sense for it to be there. I am really digging CrossCode, and it's actually coming to Game Pass on the 9th, I believe. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you can play this right away. It feels like an old school RPG where you'll run around and talk to NPCs. There's lots of dialogue, but then there's action elements, and the combat's really fun and satisfying, and there's progression and level ups, and it's good. I'm really, really digging CrossCode.
Wow, man!
All right, I'm kind of curious to see once you delve a little deeper into this, what your perceptions are later on.
Yes, I'm going to play it more this week. I've been preoccupied with my crafting station this week, and I have not got as much game time as I wanted to, but really digging it.
You just can't stop sewing.
Yeah, I really can't.
Right. So, on top of that, I'm also kind of curious to hear about some Yoko Taro business.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I've been playing SINoALICE on iOS. It's also on Android. It is Yoko Taro's mobile game. I've been very excited for it for about 3.5 years since it was announced. And then it crushed me last year. It was supposed to come out on June 6th. And then on June 5th, they announced it would be delayed indefinitely due to translation issues. And here we are a year later. It's out. And let me tell you guys, it's perfectly fine.
No,
just
perfectly
fine.
You threw me off because I heard the word "perfect" come out of my mind. I'm like, all right, this is a perfect game. And then he put the "fine" at the end.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, man, as much as I'd love to be a completely biased Yoko Taro shill, I mean, it's a mobile game, you know? I think the story is delivered kind of cool for a mobile title because it's just like one or two sentences before every battle, which is smart because I think when mobile games try to do stories, it is often annoying because you just want to get in, play, and get out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of a cool way to deliver it, but the flip side of that is that it's hard to care about the characters because you learn, you know, because each of them, by the time their story is over, has like 40 sentences of dialogue or whatever.
Okay.
So it could be, you know, kind of hard, but it's plenty dark and messed up when you do get into the stories. Even every weapon has its own story, and you get more of it as you level up. And same thing with your character classes. Every class has a story, and that's kind of interesting. That's kind of a staple of his. But in terms of the gameplay, I mean, the combat is, I I mean, like, it's simpler than a DC Legends or a Marvel Strike Force or a Galaxy of Heroes. Like, it's just it's all about getting weapons in this mobile game. So instead of collecting characters, you're collecting weapons.
Okay.
And the characters are just like super rare because there's only a handful of them, and they're all based on fairy tales, which is kind of cool. I'm maining Alice from Alice in Wonderland. And so you collect gear, and it's got different elemental attributes, but it really doesn't matter outside of one boss fight I've had what you're packing, because basically all of your weapons get shuffled into a deck, and you can randomly pull them or whatever. But like the enemies are all just so easy, and it's
is it
like
just at the beginning thing? Do you see it getting more difficult and wanting to microtransact you, or?
There was one difficulty spike, but once you get past that battle, it goes back to being pretty easy. So I don't know. I mean, it's more multiplayer focused than I expected. Like, it's very big on your guild, and it wants you to. They have a arena combat every 24 hours, and they very much like, and you only have 30 minutes to jump in with your guild to fight. So it's like very multiplayer driven.
Okay,
which was not exactly what I wanted. But I do like the essential the music. Almost infuriates me because it is incredible, and I don't care. I don't want music in a mobile game because I just want to listen to a podcast. But the music is so good that I feel like occasionally I just have to turn it on, or I feel guilty because it's a pretty extraordinary soundtrack. It's the same composer as Nier Automata, for those people out there. But like, I don't know, the central storyline of they're fairy tale characters, and they're trying to murder their way through hordes of enemies because if they can collect enough blood, they can bring their author back to life. I think that's a super fun premise.
That's different.
It is.
Yeah, and like Alice wants to bring him back because she thinks Lewis Carroll deserves a second shot, but Cinderella wants to bring her author back because she wants to force him to write her a better story.
I kind of like that. That's cool.
It's super. That stuff's super cool. I kind of wish I had the story, but not in a mobile game, honestly.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense.
It's a super cool idea, but I mean, I will play more of it. I was not expecting to forget I had a Yoko Taro game installed on my phone. I did not see that coming.
I will tell you, Zach, I downloaded it and fully intended to play it the night I got the announcement that it was up, and then it didn't work, and there was still like server maintenance or whatever.
That was weird. They released it during a server maintenance period. That was bizarre.
Mm-hmm. And
but I still think you should check it out. It's free.
I have it on my phone. I'll try it out. I just haven't got back to it yet. So
yeah, try it out. I'll invite you to my guild.
Awesome.
Again, that is SINoALICE. You're playing on iOS, but you mentioned it's also available on Android.
Correct.
And CB, I want to talk to you real quick about the game you've been playing, and we'll have to go quick because we are running short on time. I got several other games I got to talk about with some other people. But Superliminal gave me such Portal vibes when I watched this trailer. Please tell me that it scratches that itch because it looks awesome.
It's Portal.
It's Portal, just
it's
not
Portal.
with portals, right?
No, it's not. It's everything is perception based. It feels like a spiritual successor to Portal.
You say perception, or do you mean perspective?
Both.
Okay.
So you are a character who goes to this company. You are put into a dreamlike state for some reason, and you learn that you have these abilities that you can change the size of things based upon their perspective and perception.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things they have you do is like pick up a chess piece and you hold it up, and when you're looking at it like against a far wall, it looks huge. And so you let go and all of a sudden it's huge.
Right.
And so you have all these rooms that you have to traverse through with puzzles, but you have small objects like a kid's wooden block or a die, like a die or a pair of dice or chess pieces. And you have to force them into a different size using like forced perspective.
Yeah, the way I would explain it is like, imagine you take one of those objects and you hold it at arm's length and it looks small, but you bring it up close to your eye and it makes the object look bigger. That's that for it. And then imagine now you release that object and now that object is actually as big as it looks, being that close to your eye, and now it's massive and fills the room. And you have to use that to solve puzzles, right?
In the very beginning.
Okay.
As the game goes on, you find other things that you have to do. Like you see a drawing of a box on a wall, but it looks weird because it's out of focus.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually move and position yourself in the room till it looks like a box drawn on the wall. Like, 3D art.
Yeah.
When you look it out on the ground, like it looks weird and long until you step back.
Yeah.
So you have to position yourself so it looks normal, and then you can pick it up or peel it off the wall, and now it's a box that you can make bigger or smaller to get out of the room, or place on a pad to open a door.
It sounds like vastly more interesting version of the puzzles in Senua's Sacrifice, where you had to just position yourself to line up to make those shapes, and that was it.
Yes,
hopefully less repetitive.
Right.
No, and the as I'm going on, the game is actually changing the rules on me.
In a good way, or?
In a good way. Like I went to pick up one of the die on the ground, and a section of the floor came with it, which then opened a hole that I had to go through.
That almost has escape room vibes to it.
Portal is essentially an escape room.
That's true. Yeah.
So I have no idea where I'm at in this game, but there's so many things that gives it that Portal-like feel. There's a voice overhead that's like, oh, nope, don't go that way. You were going the wrong way. Or there's hidden messages like the Cave Johnson messages.
Okay.
So those are in there. There's just so many things that give it a Portal-like feel, even though it's not Portal. I love this game. I recommend it to anybody who likes Portal or puzzle games or just bizarre games.
I am sold. I have to play this game.
That's a resounding endorsement that I did not see coming.
I love this game. I'm having an absolute blast with it. The fact that they even make the loading screens a joke.
Okay.
It'll give you it'll say loading, and then there's the bar. Well, the bar it'll start filling up, but then it'll start going backwards, or it'll start going forwards
to mess with you,
or it'll just go off the screen and start making loops.
I like it.
So it's a cool game. I highly recommend this game.
So again, that is Superliminal. I think we're all three sold on that. I know I want to play that one for sure. All right, before we move on, I sat down with Spencer to talk about Hunting Simulator 2 and a game called Hardspace Shipbreaker. That game sounds way more interesting after hearing him talk about it. Also talked to Chad about a real-time tactics game called Nordic Warriors, and then sat down with Thomas to talk about Desperados III and a point-and-click adventure game he's playing called Hand of Glory. So without further ado, here are those reviews. What's up there, Spencer?
Oh, not much. How about you, Scott?
Doing all right. Talk to me about Hunting Simulator 2 from NeoPika developer. I'm really intrigued by this because you wanted to play this so badly.
Yeah, since actually it was released out in March, I think, when we first heard about it. Is I kept clamoring for it for probably every week. It's a hunting simulator game. Anything? Have you ever been hunting, Scott?
Very little. I shot at a doe from my tree once and missed and felt bad about it and never went back to it.
Okay, so, but how long were you out there before you took the shot?
Probably a good hour and a half, 2 hours at least.
Okay. Well, this game pretty much captures everything of that. I mean, you're talking everything that has to do with hunting in the real life is brought to life in Hunting Simulator 2. It's the epitome of hunting. The patience, waiting around for the buck to come by, or an elk, or a cougar, or a bobcat, because there's a whole wide variety of them.
Sure.
The game is phenomenal. I mean, it's well put. It's made with Unreal Engine 4, so it's vibrant. It's beautiful. I mean, I thought I was looking at a real sunset, watching the sunset in one of the set points when I was hunting.
Oh, wow. You're playing this on PC, right?
That is correct, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my graphics are just a little bit better.
Right. So, I mean, part of the reason that hunting never appealed to me was the sitting and waiting. But is there a lot of that you just really sit there and stare at the screen waiting for animals to walk in front of you?
That's probably one of the biggest downfalls is the waiting game.
Okay.
You have a dog that you can actually go hunting with, and you can tell him to go find a track or some urine of an animal, and they will find it, and they will keep looking for it after you say, "Hey, good job. Let's keep looking for this animal."
Right.
And yeah, you're right. It's pretty much everything having to do with hunting. Seriously.
All right. So
it's
it sounds
not
like
bad, though.
You still recommend it?
I do recommend but for the younger kids, if you're not into the patience, if you don't have a lot of patience, because I know a lot of kids these days don't have the biggest patience, don't have a lot of patience like some of us adults do. No offense to them, but I don't think this game is for them. It's more for somebody who just wants to sit back and relax and enjoy some hunting while they can't hunt.
All right. Well, looking forward to the written review, which I assume is going to come in the near future. Yes.
Yes, here probably within the week.
All right, and again, that is Hunting Simulator 2, and a shout out to Home Run PR for hooking you up with a review copy of that. Looking forward to that. Also, you played a game called Hardspace Shipbreaker from Blackbird Interactive. That's the developer there. Talk to me about this. I have no idea what this game is from the trailer.
Okay, so I was really confused about this game too, but Rel and I actually were going back and forth about who was going to take the game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
The game is intriguing. You're a shipbreaker, as what you're called. So you are hired by Lynx, which is a corporation who builds spaceships, and you take apart those spaceships that are out of service. So what they do is they send you to a bay in space, and they charge you a hefty fee. It's like $999 million that they charge you to take you to space.
Oh, so you start out in debt like Animal Crossing.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right.
And what you do is, in order to get out of debt, is you have to break down those ships. And when I say break down these ships, I mean there are small little things you can grab off of it. You can even take the antennas off and send it to the little, like a scrap bin type of thing.
So you're a scrapper. Shipbreaker is a scrapper.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I really like it. It's actually it feels good. For some reason, I don't know why. I was going to
say, do you get that cathartic release like when you power wash something, kind of like taking apart things just feel good?
Yeah, for some reason, me just taking a laser and breaking up a piece of aluminum into small squares and then sending it off to the recycle bin makes me feel good. It's like, I'm doing something good, I guess, even though I'm in debt.
So you're enjoying this game, it sounds like.
I really like it. I don't know if there's a huge ending to it at all or how far we can get with it. But
you're still in early access, right?
Yes, but this game, I'm going to keep playing it even after early access is over with. It's a great game. I like it. So so before you even ask me, I do recommend it, yes.
Perfect. And thanks to Sandbox Strategies for hooking you up with a copy of Hardspace Shipbreaker. It sounds oddly satisfying.
I think you should come over and try it. I think it'd be really interesting for you to check it out.
I think I might do that. Well, Spencer, thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate you taking the time to check out these games, and we're looking forward to the written reviews in the coming week.
Yeah, my written review should be out this week, more than likely. And thank you, Scott. I'm happy to be here.
All right, man. Thanks. You have a good one.
All right, you as well.
Bye. Well, hey there, Chad. How you doing today, man?
Doing good, Scott. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. We are here to talk about a game called Nordic Warriors that you've been playing for us from Mushu. I'm sorry, Mashu. I can't pronounce the developer, but so my apologies. But talk to me about this one, because it looks very much like a RTS game, real-time strategy game. Is that what this is?
It's technically real-time tactics, and the basic difference is there is 0 resource gathering, 0 troop building, and 0 building of anything. So you're really just taking your general and leading your troops through the levels. And there's an objective to each one that you have to complete, which also involves your general, who the main hero is Freya, has to survive every map. If she dies, or on certain maps she's not the general, she gets replaced by somebody. If they die, you automatically lose, even if everybody else is still alive.
So she's the king of a chessboard, so to speak.
Sort of, yeah, so to speak. She's a shaman of her village, and her dad was the chief of the village. In the beginning of the game, they're attacked by the undead warriors, and her father is killed, and so she's sent on the mission to get rid of these undead warriors that are now ravaging the land.
Okay, well, it sounds kind of like an interesting way to do a strategy game where you're not having to worry about the resource management and the towns and all that. You're just going out and doing the battles. Are you digging this game?
I can't say it was the greatest game for me. I feel like they missed on a lot of things, like especially like the Norse mythology. The level construction was really, really well done. I did like that. The scenery was awesome. The wildlife they added to it. So the level building was done, but the game itself had a lot of like certain little issues. Like say you wanted to select your troops and you wanted to send them somewhere. And if you sent them past where an enemy was going to appear and you didn't know the enemy was coming, they'll actually keep walking past the enemy and not engage them. And next thing you know, your troops are getting attacked from behind because you didn't realize that was happening. So occasionally the controls would get you. And like you have certain attacks called area attacks on the ground. If you select the ground and the troops walk by it, then you're going to keep trying to go to where you can fire at that area. And again, get loss of troop life pretty easily.
Gotcha. So it sounds like this wasn't a game for you, but do you think it's one you still recommend for fans of the genre, or no?
I think if you're really into just controlling the troops, you might enjoy it. A lot of the time, you're really kind of cheesing your way through the game where you make the enemies appear, and then you start running backwards away from them and using your area attacks mostly. Like Freya's got an exploding fire spell, and that's generally how you're going to take out like 75% of the troops, is making them chase her and just having her use that spell while they're trying to follow her. And she will kill most of them.
So, cautiously recommend maybe, but it definitely was not a game for you.
No, it wasn't for me. When it comes to real-time strategy, I want to be involved in, except this is tactics, not strategy. I actually want to be involved in the troop building process and more going on instead of just keeping a group of people alive to meet an objective.
Gotcha. Well, again, that is Nordic Warriors, and we'll be looking forward to your written review on that one. And shout out to Community Villa for hooking you up with a review copy to check that one out. We do appreciate it. Chad, thanks so much for being here, man.
Hey, my pleasure, Scott.
All right, we'll catch you later.
Later.
Well, hello there, Thomas. How are you today?
A very good evening, Mr. Clark. Are you enjoying your summer holiday?
I am, man. I'm learning all kinds of new skills. It's been an interesting summer for me, for sure. We talked about it on the show, actually. I'm learning to sew. I'm learning to make jam. And I've been chopping wood, so I've been doing an eclectic mix of different things. But
so the next stop is a Renaissance fair?
Yeah, let's go with that. Well, you're here to talk to us about a game that I'm really intrigued by. It's called Desperados III. This game comes from Mimimi Games. I believe that's how I pronounce it, Mimimi Games. And I was drawn to the trailer immediately because of its Western theme. I feel like we don't have a lot of Western games, but it also has a strategy sense to it. So talk to me about Desperados 3 and why should I play it?
You should play it because it's awesome.
All right.
Well, I must say, this is my first impression of the game because I've only just started playing it, and I got the impression that it's quite a big game. And I've played Desperados 1 and 2, and I loved those. Basically, these games are semi-real-time strategy, as in depending on what level you play, you can either pause the game or not to do things. But you control one or multiple characters that all have their own special skills, and you use those skills to get through these scenarios.
Okay.
I am at the moment halfway through the first scenario. I played the entire prologue, which is is how you learn to play the game, and then you get thrown into the first part of the story because it's all again very story driven. And I am halfway through that first mission, and I'm playing with 2 characters right now, and I need to figure out how I can take out 4 robbers because there's a train crash caused by a big group of train robbers, and I need to get to the other side of the train, and I need to take out all the enemies. But if the enemies sound the alarm, I get a lot more enemies, and there's no way I'm going to survive that because they're going to shoot me. Basically,
so it's kind of like real-time strategy with some stealth built into it?
Yes and no, because it's not like you're building things or stuff, and then you use them. In my case, I have these 2 characters who both, like one character can distract someone with a coin, making him look away. And the other character, for instance, has like one of those old-fashioned doctor's bags that he can throw somewhere that he can try and get someone to investigate, and thus luring them away from their position.
All right.
And in this case, I have one bandit who is tying up a prisoner. I have one bandit who is very tough, who is walking around in a certain way. And I have two bandits who are on the lookout. As far as I know, I need to take out those two lookout bandits first before I can take out the other two. But so far, I have not succeeded, because the other two see what I'm doing. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So I give them orders. I can pause the game. I can tell them what to do. And I can then let them execute those orders. So in that case, I can, for instance, have them shoot two people at once, or do all those things. And I prefer to do things in the stealthy way, because that's what I like in these kind of games. And then it's constant. You're constantly saving. Your F5 is your best friend. The quick save. You check out where you can hide. You check out viewpoints. You're just constantly trying to figure out a way. It's a puzzle, basically. And then if you play at higher level, because right now I'm playing at the easiest level, because it's been a long time since I played a game like this. So it's different from, for instance, Mutant Year Zero, which was completely turn-based.
Right.
And this is not turn-based. This is basically you can pause it, you can give the commands, and then they go again, and then you can also give them new commands while they're doing stuff. At higher level, if you play at a higher difficulty, you lose the ability to pause, so that makes it harder, and the opponents are also like either more opponents or more difficult to get rid of. And then you must not forget, after you've killed everyone or disabled everyone, that you put the bodies in the bushes so they are not discovered and stuff like that. So, and the game looks and sounds fantastic. I consider, and this is my first impression. I'm going to play it a lot more to get a better impression. But I consider this the best Western game at the moment. And that's high praise. That includes Red Dead Redemption, because
you're going to make some people angry with that one.
Yeah, I don't care. I like this way more, because it's all a matter of personal taste, of course.
Absolutely.
It's just the whole strategic, stealthy approach to solving these problems is you can't go in guns blazing, because 9 out of 10 times you lose. So you really have to do it the smart way instead of the brutal way. And I like that. I really like that.
All right. So that sounds like you definitely recommend that one. Again, it is Desperados III. And thanks to Evolve PR for hooking you up with a copy to check out that game. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll give you a full review once I've finished the game in probably a couple of weeks.
Sounds good. We'll have that on the site for sure. The other game I want to talk about quickly is called Hand of Glory. You got this one from Made It Entertainment and Daring Touch. I know absolutely nothing about Hand of Glory, but this one falls into your point-and-click adventure category, yes?
Yes, this is a classic point-and-click adventure game in a very cartoony style, where you play Lazarus Bundy, who is a police detective in a sort of alternate reality Miami. So like it looks for 90% like the normal Miami, but there are also some things that are different. For instance, the police is different. And Lazarus Bundy is known as a very good detective. But he's also a bit of a fool. Like
Inspector Gadget?
No, because Inspector Gadget really is a fool.
Okay.
He accidentally solves things, but more like what's the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Name is
Terry Crews?
No, the main character.
Andy Samberg?
Yeah, what he played, the character he plays.
Okay.
Who acts like a fool, but is also really a good detective. And that's the case here as well. This guy, he's a bit foolish, he's a bit bombastic, a bit blustering, but he's a loner, but he's a good detective, or at least he tries to be. And you start the game by trying to catch a serial killer, and that unfortunately goes horribly wrong. And that really messes with him, with Lazarus. So when there is a new, he kind of gets put on leave, and he's off his game, completely off his game. This whole ordeal has hit him hard. So when a girl, Catherine Maltzberg, is kidnapped, he sees that as his chance to redeem himself. Mm-hmm. And that's where what you try to do. You have to solve all kinds of puzzles. The first puzzle is actually a quite simple exercise. Quite simple. The idea is simple, but the execution is not. Is you have to get your bicycle free because you lost a key, or someone has the key to the bicycle, and the bicycle is chained to a lamppost. So you have to get the key to your bicycle first. But to do that, you have to do certain things. And in that way, it's a classic point-and-click adventure game, as in you collect items, you sometimes combine items, or you use those items to get things done in the environment or with people. And also, you have the conversation choices that you need to make. And you can die in this game.
Oh, wow. I don't remember that being a big thing in point-and-click adventures.
It used to be a very big thing, but they still made it a big thing because it can be pretty annoying. But they also just put you back right before that moment. Mm-hmm. So if you die, for instance, then they put you 30 seconds before that moment happens, so you can try again, and or you can make different choices to not die. So it's annoying, but it's not game stopping or anything. It's not like, oh, I wish I had saved and now I have to play the last 30 minutes all over again. Can still happen if you're a fool, but in this case, it won't really prohibit you from continuing the game. What is cool about this is it's actually a part one, and it ends on a very nice cliffhanger. And I really, really enjoyed this game. Awesome. There were some very challenging puzzles in there. I think 80% of the puzzles I could figure out. There were 2 or 3 puzzles that I had some difficulty with, and I had to either consult a walkthrough to get through it a bit quicker, or get a hint from Saoirse, who played the game before me, because I didn't want to get stuck too long. So that's why there were 1 or 2 instances where I needed a bit of help, but the puzzles they did make sense. They were not dream logic or just in there to prolong the game. I did not get that feeling at all. I really enjoyed it. It has it's got quite some dark elements too, story-wise, and the ending is it's something in the ending that comes out of nowhere. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it does it really sets the character up for the second part. I don't know when that second part is gonna drop. I finished the game in about 9 hours, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So.
All right, that is Hand of Glory. That sounds like it's going to scratch those old Monkey Island itches for me.
Oh, definitely,
for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Thomas, for stopping by to talk about Desperados 3 and Hand of Glory. I really appreciate you taking the time checking these games out for us.
Yeah, and I'll check out some more stuff that you sent my way, and I will talk about that the next time we meet each other.
Sounds good, man. Thanks so much. You have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. All right, before we go to our topic, I want to say hello to some new members over on Facebook, which can be found at facebook.com/groups/thegocast. New members include Christopher Desarn and Jake Markgraf. Welcome to the group. Hope you're enjoying the community over there. Please join the group. There is, I try to keep it updated with as much news as I can, and would love to see it over there. Also, we have a Discord server that we use for games, to actually play online games once in a while, but it's turned into lots of good discussions about games as well. The link for that is in the show notes. And I want to say hello to Incendiary Flame, Azaz Clan Owner 1, and Sprinkles the Bear, and lastly, Iankno. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I love the name Sprinkles the Bear. Bears seem to be a recurring theme in some of the names of our Discord people, and I love it. Also, no new iTunes reviews this week, but do us a chance, or do us a favor if you can, and hop over to Apple Podcasts, drop us a review, let us know what you think. Finally, Our website, thegamingoutsider.com, has all of our episodes, as well as the online store I talked about, and our written reviews, where you can read Zach's review on Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, Chad's review of Nordic Warriors, Thomas's review of Boreal Tenebrae, which he talked about last week, and the Innsmouth case, which Zach also talked about last week. So be sure to check out the website. With that, let's go ahead and jump into our From the Outside In topic. This week's topic came at the request of one of our listeners. We had one of these a couple of weeks ago. Kevin Honigford texted me the other day and said he wanted us to talk about boss fights. So before we get into like our favorites and least favorites and all that, how do you guys feel about boss fights? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Are you indifferent? What do you think?
I feel like it may come as no surprise to you, but it really depends on the story.
Okay.
You know, if you know, like boss fights in general are cool. I mean, they can be if they fit the structure of the game. If you have like a Dark Souls game, I love the boss fights. I can't wait to get to them. And that, you know, the game's kind of structured around that. But if it's like Uncharted, the boss fights always just come out of nowhere and feel awful.
Right. Or
Or even The Last of Us has that weird boss fight where the guy's like chasing you around the restaurant. And you have to sneak behind him 3 times. That was also pretty difficult.
the guy that had a thing for kids.
Yeah, yes, him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're right. I didn't know if Zach had any more. So, I love boss fights. I can't get enough of them.
Really? It just doesn't matter what the game, you want to have a boss fight in it.
Yep. As long as it doesn't overstay its welcome. I love having like a random boss fight every now and then that you're not expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But I love games that have boss fights. And there's some games that I absolutely despise that have boss fights.
Okay.
Like Sekiro. Hate them.
Well, you just don't like that gameplay or that game style.
I hate Souls games so much.
I feel like I would like Souls games if I had a little bit more patience. Because I see the appeal. I don't have that dexterity, or my mind just doesn't wrap around the dodges and the parries well enough for some reason. I gotta get over that.
Yeah, I obviously love that kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to find ways to cheese them.
I appreciate boss fights as a test of your skill, or as role playing games. You know, here's a big old foe to unleash upon. But I also really like when boss fights are puzzle oriented, like in Zelda.
Oh yeah,
You know,
where you
where
got to use the right weapon.
Yeah, where it looks and feels like a fight, but like you're honestly kind of solving a puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's always super. That's very rewarding to me.
I think it's rewarding. You mentioned like in an RPG where you're facing off against a big boss, and you know it depends on your level. I always find it super satisfying when I've spent countless hours leveling up my character and getting these awesome weapons, and then that final boss feels like a breeze because I spent the time beforehand to do it. I love that feeling. Do you remember how cool it was fighting Sephiroth in the original Final Fantasy VII with Knights of the Round? And you didn't really even do anything. You just wiped him out with that one summon spell?
Nope. Never got that one.
No? It was a lot of work to get that summon spell. You had to breed chocobos and get a black chocobo, and like it was just, there was so many convoluted steps. I'll never understand how somebody actually figured out how to do it.
Green to blue to black to gold.
I don't remember the order, but that sounds right. It's been a long time. But for me, I like boss fights. Like Zach mentioned, the kind of like with the story. When the story, it makes sense for what's going on in the narrative aspect of the game. But I like it better when it doesn't feel like a boss fight, where it just feels like a natural progression of what's been going on. I think we've talked about it before. When you come across a boss and you know you've got to shoot the glowy parts.
Right, Resident Evil. Right.
That always feels like, okay, I'm really just playing a shooting gallery right now more than playing a really cool video game. And I don't know. There was a Chantel in Discord said that she likes boss battles but doesn't like mini bosses, which I thought was interesting. She didn't go into too much detail there, but I wonder. I want to find out what she doesn't like about mini bosses, because when I think mini bosses, I think like the Mega Man games. Remember how like halfway through some of the levels, there's always that just like dumb little robot that you got to blow up before going out of the next stage. They don't
Like the
feel as
cat?
rewarding, huh?
Like wasn't there like a robot cat?
Probably. There's been 11 Mega Man games, and how many Mega Man X games, and how many Game Boy
Surely
Advance
there was a
ones?
cat. There was a cat along the way.
There had to have been at some point.
That one just popped
Yeah.
into my head. I'm like, I remember Robot Cat for some reason.
Robot
Maybe
cat.
that's the thing. You know, maybe you're into robot cats. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
Don't kink shame me.
When I think mini bosses, I think Zelda, and in those kind of games, you know, it's just they're almost like just a kind of a stopgap, but you never remember them like you remember the dungeon boss.
Right, but weren't the mini bosses in the Zelda games also where you usually got access to a specific weapon you needed to progress? So they always
Yeah,
had a
maybe.
rewarding aspect to it.
I suppose, but like solving the dungeon is already kind of reward itself.
That's true. Yeah. So, are there any boss battles that you remember that you absolutely hated? You know, either because they were too difficult or just poorly developed.
Oh man. I've got like a laundry list.
Oh, really?
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah. I Emerald and Ruby weapon off the top of my head immediately
Why didn't you like those?
because I sucked at those fights.
You just
fair
didn't.
enough.
You just didn't grind enough. You got to go to the
I-
underwater sunken ship area with the swinging enemies.
Oh, I did that. I still hated those fights. I was never good at like stacking my materia around
Oh.
that time.
Okay.
I hated those. Shout out to like way back when I played World of Warcraft a lot, but the 40-man raids, for those listeners who remember those, the Temple of Anchorage and 40-man Nax, those fights were awful. They were like some of the worst times you could ever have in a game, because not only are you fighting this insanely hard boss, but at the time I was a raid leader for this, so trying to like manage your group of people to fight this one boss where you had to be like at specific places at specific times doing specific things. Like if you ever want to watch one, Scott, go watch. There's a YouTube video called Onyxia Raid Wipe, and just listen to it. And this dude just goes off because everything just goes badly.
I don't think anybody has ever turned me off to World of Warcraft more than you. Like every time you talk about World of Warcraft, you talk about like how much you hate that game, yet you put literal years of time into
I
playing
know.
it.
I had a lot of fun times in that game,
Mm-hmm.
but now that part of my life is over, the good memories just seem to slip farther and farther away, and I'm just left with bitter remorse and angry memories.
And now you're just stuck with us.
Yeah, I know. But oh god, some of the talking about Catherine, some of those like boss fights, I guess
We're tough.
those were awful.
I never felt like they weren't fair though. Like I just didn't understand the puzzle I was trying to get through in that game.
I know, but I just like those were like those at the time. Like I love those types of games now. When I first got into playing those, hated them.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I could go on and on about just miserable times playing against bosses. And every boss that I've gone up against in Sekiro, awful,
Oh, man.
awful experience.
Even as a guy who loves Dark Souls and Bloodborne, I think the boss fights in Sekiro are the weakest in the From Software games.
The first time I went up against Madame Butterfly,
Oh yeah.
that pissed me off so much. I have not played that game since.
I mean, it's you know what, David Newman brings up Sekiro as a great example of that game's bullshittery. I think second phases are annoying. Great example is the gorilla in Sekiro. You literally cut its head off, start walking away, and all of a sudden it comes back to life. Headless, wielding a sword. Bosses are so hard in general in that game, so adding a second phase is just a pain in the ass. Having said that, it's very satisfying to beat a boss in a game like Sekiro. Try so many times, and when you finally beat it, it's a huge relief to finally win. I do agree, I love beating my head against a Souls boss. It is... I feel like I'm shooting a drug right into my veins when I beat a boss in those games. It feels that good.
Mm-hmm.
But Sekiro, especially the gorilla, I stopped playing the game with the gorilla. And I love these games to death.
Mm-hmm.
That gorilla is already one of the hardest boss fights in a video game because I think it is one of the rare examples of just being unfair in one of their games. And then they add a second phase, and it ain't a cute look.
Madam Butterfly was no different, man.
Madam Butterfly, yeah.
That was
definitely tough.
awful. What do you got, Scott?
All right, we're on to me now?
Sure.
Let's see. The first one that came to mind, and I feel like, because we did have this topic a long time ago, back before you guys joined the show, and I think I mentioned this one then, but the final boss for Dante's Inferno infuriated me. I almost broke my 360 controller in half. If I'm thinking of the right game, or maybe is that the one where you could shoot, the final boss was off in the distance and had the rings around him, and
it's
then
Lucifer in the frozen lake.
Oh my god! And then him throwing crosses at you or something, or I was shooting crosses at him. It made zero sense at the time. It took me hours to pass that boss, and then he comes out, and that was the first time I had seen male genitalia in a video game before. That threw me for a loop.
Pretty massive male genitalia in that game.
Yes, yeah, comically massive. I might add.
Yes.
The other one that came to mind immediately, and it sucks because it was such a great game, but I felt so let down by the final boss, was BioShock. BioShock had a great story, and then you go and basically you just run up and stab this guy 3 times, and that's it, and then fight off some splicers, and that was the entire boss, though.
What a perfect example of a game that didn't need a boss fight, but they forced one in there anyway.
Yeah. There was no reason for that. You could have just made that even just cinematic, or just let me walk up and have this conversation and would have been press X to do this or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then Sean McGuire from the community mentioned the last boss in Ninja Gaiden on Xbox. I couldn't tell if he was saying this was a good one or a bad one. I remember being disappointed by the final boss in the original Ninja Gaiden, because I think we've talked about this before, where the bosses felt backwards in difficulty in Ninja Gaiden, where that first boss, you remember when you fight your trainer or whatever at the beginning of that game, and it was so hard and I almost gave up on the game, and then the bosses got progressively more manageable. There was one boss fight in the middle, Alma, that I almost quit the game. That was a... Have you played the original Ninja Gaiden, Zach? Because those boss fights seem like Sekiro level of difficulty for me at the time.
Yeah, I did beat Ninja Gaiden on Xbox.
Okay, but do you remember
as a dare from a friend?
As a dare, you played it or finished it?
Well, he beat it on normal. He's like, yeah, I'm the man. He's like, I think I might be one of the best gamers ever, man. I beat Ninja Gaiden on normal. I was like, I'm pretty sure I could beat it on normal. He's like, oh, really? I dare you to beat it on hard then. I was like, okay. So I beat it on hard on principle.
Nice. That game was so cool back in the day.
Yes.
It was so awesome.
It lit the industry on fire, man. People loved Ninja Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden 2 was good. Did not like Ninja Gaiden 3.
Yeah, you're not alone.
But we need another one of those. That game just felt so good. And remember the scrolls that you'd save up the scrolls so that if you died, you would resurrect and get basically an extended health bar, more or less. I love that game. Anyway, the final boss was very disappointing for me because it felt so easy. I don't know if that was poor design or if I figured out how to play the game now. Because that first boss was awful. Terrible.
Right.
I mean, not in construction. It was just difficult. I didn't know how to play the game.
They should design. If you're gonna have the last boss, it should probably be the final challenge, right?
Right.
Unlike the worst final boss of all time, Ganon in Breath of the Wild.
Oh man, yeah, we've talked about that one plenty.
Yeah, hey man, it fits to this topic. It is awful.
It is,
and the worst part is it fits so perfectly in the storyline. It's everything the game is building towards.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get there and you hit the attack button a few times, and you go out on your horse and you shoot them, and then credits roll, and I was never once in danger.
Right.
Super lame.
Well, I mean, do you ever really feel in danger when you're fighting a Zelda boss?
Sure. Ocarina of Time, it may not have been challenging per se, but you felt the moment.
Yeah, you felt like you were on an adventure, and
it felt like this final showdown with this evil force. Then you beat Ganondorf, right, and you escape the castle, but he's not done yet.
Mm-hmm.
Ganon pops out, and usually, and it works, and it makes you feel like you're there. The Breath of the Wild, not so much. But speaking of Ganon, though, similarly, Amber Olmstead Lily of Discord says, I dislike the surprise boss fight. For example, in Final Fantasy IX, you beat Kuja and then are faced with this thing that looks like a building that you have no idea what or who it is and why. All too often, the final boss of a Final Fantasy game can be disappointing.
This isn't even my final form.
Yes, that kind of crap. Or like, this is really you beat Kuja, and then a guy just comes out. I think his name is Necron, and he's just he's just like a dude with like a building around him, and he's sitting on a ball that looks like the Earth, and he's going to destroy everything. You're like, who is this guy? Why is he here? It's pretty wretched, and it feels like they had to do one twist. And it's not the worst thing in the world. It's I'm much more annoyed by games like BioShock or Arkham Asylum with the monster Joker at the end, or Uncharted 2 with Lazarevich, where they just feel this weird need, like, oh, it is a video game, we must include a final boss.
Is it 2 or 3 Uncharted where like you have to like have him follow you around until he hits the exploding plants or something? 2. I was so mad because that game was so good up to that point.
Yeah, still a phenomenal game, but man, that final boss is real bad.
Yeah. What about most memorable boss battles for good reasons?
Well, man, I don't know if I told the story about this Bloodborne boss called Martyr Logarius. And he is a boss that I went up against and I could not beat him for the life of me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was incredibly difficult. And man, he just took me to task, and the spawn point was a little bit far away, but I kept trying. And I was used to boss fights taking me a night or two in Bloodborne because it's just so difficult. And this guy I could not do it. And it took me almost a week of coming home right after my shift at Starbucks, and then I would fight him for 5 hours and then go to bed angry. I could not beat this guy. And finally I beat him. There's my arch nemesis, the Martyr Logarius, and it felt so incredible to finally beat him. And then later I would find out I was in an optional area of the game, and I was about 20 levels under what I should be.
Oh, wow.
So I had just gone early to a difficult area, and for some reason didn't have a problem with the normal enemies. And then got to the boss and just got wrecked, and then looked online, and it was about 20 levels under the recommendation.
But you still pulled it off.
Yeah, that feels pretty
Now,
awesome.
was this a turn-based game, or was this just a Twitch game?
It was like Bloodborne. It's a Souls-like.
So, wow. So that's even... Yeah, because I feel like if you're under-leveled in a turn-based JRPG, that you don't stand a chance if you're 20 levels below.
Right. And you tend to know that, like, oh, I should not be here.
Right.
But Bloodborne is just so damn tough anyway. And I was like, man, I just must not be good with this boss. Because that happens, right? Where the community will be like, Ornstein and Smo and Dark Souls is so tough. And then I beat them on my second try.
Right.
But then there'll be another boss where they're like, oh yeah, Cleric Beast is an easy Bloodborne boss. I'm like, that took me 2 nights. It's just funny how I was like, oh man, I guess my brain is just wired a different way for this boss.
I like it.
And it was not. It was just a dumbass.
It's interesting to me that like your most memorable boss battle is one that you struggled for literally hours and hours.
Yeah, because it kind of constructed a narrative between me and Martyr Logarius. This guy was haunting me. I was thinking about him at work. Like, how am I going to get this guy? He lived with me, man. So whenever I think about Bloodborne, I often think about Martyr Logarius.
Nice. Any others?
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's a recurring boss you fight several times over the course of the game, like I'm thinking Solus and Breakdown, Second Sister and Fallen Order is a great example. Even the Nemesis in Resident Evil 3, I loved. Because anytime you're just like pursued by this force, and your character just can't do anything, until the final boss, of course, final fight, like it just feels so good. Because you're building up a rivalry with a specific enemy, and you think you're doing better every time. And if you haven't played the game before, you never know. Is like, am I supposed to beat them this time, or am I supposed to lose? And I just always love that.
Especially if you don't know if you're at the final boss or not. Like the first time you play it, like, is this the final boss, or am I just going to face him again later?
Right, or like JRPGs, I guess, you tend to have those kind of rivalries. Like how many times do you fight Cypher in FF8?
Right.
Or Kuja in FF9, or Sephiroth and so like
am I supposed to lose this battle? You ever do that where you go up against a boss, like you're trying like hell to pass this thing, and then your character kneels down, and then the story goes on. You're like, oh, I could have just sat here and done nothing and been fine.
That's the worst of JRPGs, when you use all your potions on a boss, and then you find out you were supposed to lose anyway. So now you got no items, and you feel like a jackass.
Yep. Yeah. That's where you revert to previous save.
Yeah, that would probably be smarter.
That's good. CB, how about you?
Man, so you hated this one. One of my favorites was Lucifer from Dante's Inferno.
What was good about that boss battle? It was awful.
It was challenging.
Yeah, it was challenging.
Oh my God, was that fight? Like, I was working at GameWorks at the time, and I remember like coming in and talking with Nate about that. Be like, this damn boss, man.
Was that
like,
really on your list before I brought it up?
It's written down right here. Yes, it is. I loved that fight.
I hated that boss battle so much.
Oh my God, I loved that. I loved almost all the bosses from Dante's Inferno because they were themed for each of the circles. I loved that game. Like Zach said, recurring ones, but I was never as big on the Nemesis as I was like the Tyrant.
Okay.
Loved the Tyrant.
Tyrant Squad, I was just using it as a touchstone. I know. Yeah.
There's so many good ones out there. But there's also so many that I've heard other people talk about that I want to get to. Like one of these days I want to play through Metroid and Super Metroid.
That's on my list. Can I? Yeah. You know what? You mentioned it. I'm gonna read Jerry45's message here. He says, favorite end boss battle is tough. I'd say it's a toss up between Super Metroid and Legend of Zelda Ocarina. Close second to Dragon's Dogma, as that ending is insanity. And I was going to mention Super Metroid, and I won't tell you what happens because you can ask Nate, our producer, who recently played through it for the first time, that ending, that final boss battle, especially if you've played the original Metroid, which I don't remember. Have you played the original Metroid? You need to do that first.
Okay.
Because I don't think Nate did. I think he went straight for Super Metroid. I kind of want you to go through 1 and 2 and eventually Super Metroid. Because he didn't, and I want to see your perspective playing those games now for the first time. Because
okay.
That final boss battle was so good that as a kid, and granted, as a kid, you don't have as many games at your disposal and you kind of have to replay games. But I would go back to my final save of that and just replay that ending sequence over and over and over again because it just felt awesome. And it was really cool.
All right.
And I think Zach mentioned The Legend of Zelda Ocarina. I like that battle. That at the time, that felt so epic, and I can't believe this is happening.
Even by modern standards, because I replayed Ocarina only a year or two ago, and it still feels epic and cinematic.
Yeah,
even with N64 graphics.
Because wasn't it like a perspective thing? Like they just really made Ganon just seem so gargantuanly sized because you had like this lower perspective or whatever.
You're like running through his ankles and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, to get out behind him, like he is this monster. Or even when you walk in on Ganondorf, he's playing the freaking piano and organ. He just sets the stage, man. Like, yeah, they really nailed it on the first 3D Zelda game.
You're really making me want to go back and replay Ocarina now. It's been a long time since I played that.
I'm psyching myself up. I did think of another quick, great boss fight.
Okay.
So I was trying to think of superhero video game boss fights, and Deathstroke in Arkham Origins stands out. Mr. Freeze in Arkham City is also great.
Mm-hmm.
But remember the Vulture Electro fight in Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Oh, is that around the shipping containers?
And you're fighting both of them at once? No, you're thinking of Rhino and Scorpion.
Oh yeah, Rhino and Scorpion.
You're swinging like the whole time during combat.
Oh yeah. That one was awesome.
And they make the Rocky jokes. That fight, I mean, it felt amazing.
I need to replay Spider-Man now too.
You could take them down in whichever order you wanted, and the banter was, incredible.
Mm-hmm. CB, did you have any more? I feel like we both cut you off.
Oh yeah. No, it's fine. I love talking boss battles. I'm gonna jump to a comment though. Kevin Honigford, also a man after my own heart here. I love boss battles. My most favorite ever is the Death Egg robot from Sonic 2. After that, my favorites are Ganon and Ocarina of Time, Bowser from Mario 64. Man, there's so many I've enjoyed. My favorite MMO experience was Hygen the Unclean from World of Warcraft. I can see why he likes that one. It was a fun fight. Boss battles to me are the kind of rewarding challenge that you get to certain points in games. However, I have to run into a couple situations where a boss is being too hard, to beat, kind of ruined a game for me. Mega Man X Command Missions comes to mind for this. I don't remember what the boss was, but I could not get past it. I really enjoyed the game, but that killed it for me. For me, like when you posted this topic, so many of the boss battles that like flooded my mind were retro game boss battles because it was a lot more prevalent then to me.
Well, there was a lot of memorization and
yes,
and a lot of old games felt very gameplay mechanics first, story second.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So like now you don't get to the end of Gears of War and all of a sudden you're fighting Rom and his bat swarm and it just feels tacky, weird, and out of place, like
yes.
Back I hated then that fight, by the way.
Yeah, when you posted this topic, I immediately thought of all the video games of the 360 and PS3 generation where they felt like they had to throw in a boss fight because it was a video game, even though our storytelling had gotten better. We do not need this anymore.
Right.
But the old retro games like CV is mentioning, like those, they make more sense there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like Kevin said, the Death Egg robot from Sonic 2, I remember that one being so hard because there was no rings in that arena. So if you got hit and lost your rings, there were like no additional rings to find. So it was just hard. So luckily you could abuse Tails.
Yes.
That always helps.
He's good for that. That's what that boy's there for.
Yeah, I loved the Sonic boss. Most of the Sega games like that had boss battles like that. I loved those.
We need to do that for a break the seal for me.
Oh, Sonic?
I mean, I've played them, but I've never played through them.
Oh God, I could blaze through those.
Play them on Xbox One backwards compatibility, the 360 versions, because they have save states.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
so you can just cheat your way through in case you don't want to do the 3 life thing.
Or
we should do that for a break the seal for sure.
But I think probably of like all the video game bosses, my favorite of all time involved Scott sitting next to me eating Tailspin.
Oh my God. You totally cheated on that though.
Still, you cheated and you still couldn't get past it. I could not.
Yeah, that game is awful. Don't let anybody play Tailspin on the original NES. It's a terrible, terrible game. I watched CB play this game with like the rewind feature where you could like, if you get hit, you just back it up and then dodge the bullet that's coming at you. And it was still like a 20-minute battle. I don't know how anybody beat that game straight up because it just made there was no pattern. There was no, if there probably is, I just was too dumb to recognize it.
I struggled with it. I got through it, and then just watching you get more and more frustrated playing against oh god, I can't remember his name from Tailspin, but man,
Baloo?
just no. Well, it's Baloo, but I can't remember the bad guy's name.
I don't remember either.
But that I love watching boss fights like that in old games, just because there was so much skill involved.
Mm-hmm. A lot of memorization.
But like you said, the patterns for some of them are just so hard to detect.
Yeah.
So
there's one that we haven't mentioned, and I'm not surprised because it's a weird one to like. But Zach was talking about how he liked games where like you have the same boss, like you keep fighting that same boss throughout the game. I actually kind of like games that have multiple games in the series, and you wind up fighting the same boss at the end. And I know it's kind of cheap to say games like Mega Man, and I know we saw Dr. Wily in like every Mega Man game, but I always really liked Sigma from Mega Man X.
Yes. Okay. That's awesome.
I thought he was so cool. Just like he had this like smirk about him, like he would like snarl his lip. You know what I'm talking about? And then he just had like the red dot on his forehead. He was bald. He had a lightsaber. I mean, and then every time you fight him, he just had a newer incarnation of himself that I just thought was infinitely more cooler than whatever Dr. Wily did. Because Dr. Wily always just had a new contraption that he had his little spaceship floaty thing attached to it somehow, and it was cool. But man, Sigma was just an awesome reoccurring boss fight that I just really looked forward to seeing what they were going to do in each game. So that's my last one.
I had one other one to bring up because I want to get Zach's opinion, because I'm pretty sure he's played through it. But what about one of the best boss battle games of all time, Shadow of Colossus?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, man. I don't know how did we get this far without talking about boss battle, the video game.
That's all it is, and it was great.
Yeah, but that game is absolutely extraordinary. I played it several times. Yeah, each Colossi is so unique. Even the ones that look similar, you're like, ugh, I gotta do it. Like, am I gonna do this again? And then they find a way to switch it up. That's awesome. And oh man, that remake, the ones that like fly through the air or dive underwater just look so great. And the best part, it all has narrative meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, really does.
I mean, that's such a good policy, because it's such an exciting contrast of you can't wait to see the next boss. You're like, ooh, how am I going to take this guy down? And then you finally do it. You're like, yes. And then you remember you kill it, and the sad music plays, and you're like, oh yeah, this is bad. I'm doing a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's such an interesting dichotomy.
And they kind of make that sound when you kill them too, where you do feel bad. Like
yeah.
I don't have
After
a choice to not kill these creatures.
After you kill that first one, you're like, did I just do a bad thing? And then like by the time you kill the third one, you're like, I'm pretty sure I shouldn't be doing this. It's pretty awesome.
It did look good on PS4, by the way.
Yeah. Like I said, it's boss battle, the video game.
Yeah.
So I do have one other comment that I want to share. Larry Chu, Metal Gear Solid bosses are the best. And then he also said Mega Man as a kid.
Oh man, I've only played the first two Metal Gear games, but man, was it Psycho Mantis in the original Metal Gear Solid?
Yep.
That was, the whole switching the controller thing was cool, but who was the sniper? Sniper Wolf? Was that the character's name?
Oh, you're talking about the first game, sorry.
First game,
Sniper Wolf.
That fight was so cool the first time I did that, because I just felt like I had to do this tactical thing. I don't even remember how to do it, but I remember like once I figured it out, I just thought that was the coolest thing ever as a kid. Man,
right.
That was a good game.
That franchise is loaded with tremendous bosses. Obviously, Psycho Mantis, is the go-to answer. We had to switch controller ports. But the end of Metal Gear Solid 3 is great, where he's trying to snipe you, but you need to sneak around the jungle to get it behind him.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty phenomenal. Where I really love, and I feel like people give it crap, but in Metal Gear Solid 4, when you have your final fight with a Revolver Ocelot, and there are 4 phases of the fight. In each phase, it'll play the theme song from the first game, and that the health bars will look like the first game's health bars, and it'll be like Solid Snake, Revolver Ocelot. And then you get to a certain fight, or a certain point in the fight, and it transforms. Now it's playing Metal Gear Solid 2 music, and the health bars are what they were in Metal Gear Solid 2. and they changed the names to like Iroquois Pliskin or like, or Liquid Ocelot, whatever their character name was in that game. And that was pretty freaking
I've never
great.
finished that one, but that's really cool. I just like that concept.
It's an amazing celebration of the rivalry between Snake and Ocelot, It's awesome.
Even the final boss fight in the original, when you're fighting Liquid Snake, aren't you like on top of a moving truck just punching each other after like
you're on top of a Metal Gear.
Was it a Metal Gear?
Yeah.
I remember there was a fight. I thought like by the end though you were on a moving truck. Maybe I'm misremembering. I have to go
There's
back.
a Jeep chase afterwards.
Okay, yeah. So I wasn't.
So you're probably.
But just that whole thing was so cool back then. And I mean, if I went back and played the original Metal Gear Solid now, I'll bet you I'd be sorely disappointed because those polygonal graphics, I imagine, do not hold up. But
a cardboard box is still great though.
And they even brought that into Smash Brothers, didn't they?
Yep.
Yes.
Which is great. That was a fun topic, guys. Thanks for sharing. And thanks to all the community for all the great responses. We obviously couldn't get to all of them, but you guys had some really good ones. I actually think, Zach, that somebody mentioned Metal Gear Solid 4. I can't look it up right now for obvious reasons, but maybe it was on Facebook, but somebody did bring up that specific fight you're talking about. So
okay, yeah.
All right. Next week. I know last week I promised we were going to do community questions this week, but Kevin's topic suggestion was so good we had to do it. So we will do community questions next week. And if you'd like to call in, again, the number is area code 347-746-2278. Or if you want an easy way to remember, 3477-GO-CAST. And we will remind you on the socials of that number as well. But that is going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. Zach, thanks so much for being here, man. It's good chatting with you. Any parting words before we get out of here?
Of course. Watch Sex Education on Netflix. I just decided to try an episode out of nowhere and then watch the entire show in about 2 days.
I watched the first episode when it launched, and I liked it, and I don't know why I didn't go back.
It gets better and better, man. That's a good show, and it carefully touches on subjects like consent and stuff. It's a smart show. It's a funny show. It's a heartwarming show.
All right, man.
Aww.
Thanks for the recommendation. CB, how about you?
I have also a recommendation, but for adult listeners only. Watch Hannibal on Netflix. That show is great. So,
all right.
I've always been a big Hannibal Lecter. A fanable, if you will.
Oh wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So I love how like our closing portion of the podcast is us all recommending whatever we're watching. It's like,
or reading or something.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I have been doing a lot of background watching this week because I've been sitting at my station working, and I've been putting on. I think I've watched about 6 seasons of The Office this week, which I've seen multiple times in the past. But show is still really funny, still just as uncomfortable, and that show could not be made today. Legitimately could not be made today.
There's no way Michael gets on a TV show today.
Yeah. Like, it's for so many reasons. He says so many lines that I'm like, you couldn't even make fun of that now. It just wouldn't happen. But it still makes me laugh so hard. Anyway, everybody out there, thank you so much for listening to The Gaming Outsider, which is, by the way, produced by Nate Lucas. And all the music that you hear is written and performed by Grant Henry of Stemage and Metroid Metal. You can check out his site at stemagemusic.com. That's STEMAGE music.com. Also, please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Zach Parkerson and Chris Behrensmeyer, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.